Today on Dry Curl Studios, we do a high gain amp head shootout between the Peavey Windsor and the Mesa Boogie 3-channel 100 watt dual rectifier. So it's not the multi-watt. So a few things to get out of the way here, because I know people will ask. First and foremost, EL34s, 6L6. Yes, both of these are 100 watts. I am using an Ibanez TS9 to boost both of these amps. You don't always have to do that on a dual rectifier. No, it really gets some people mad if you do, and it gets some people mad if you don't boost a dual rectifier. But I chose to do that because I'm boosting the Windsor, and you really you should boost a Windsor if you're trying to get into high gain territory. As well, this is a high gain amp head shootout, so you're not going to hear any cleans, you're not going to hear any breakups or anything like that. It's just high gain. We have two sound samples here, the first of which is in drop B, and that is a little bit on the scoop side, and the second sound sample is an E standard, and that has the frequencies a little more balanced. Alright, so there you go. There are the two sound samples for the Peavey Windsor and the Mesa Boogie 3-channel 100-watt head. So it's, again, not the multi-watt. It's the version prior to the multi-watt. At this point, I generally like to go over what I've gained, what I've learned from doing this shootout here. And that's always one of those things where if I'm using a Peavey Windsor, I'm two things at once. I'm impressed with it because the Windsor, a lot of people have really low expectations. It's considered a bad amp by many. So I'm always kind of impressed at what you can do with it. And then at the same time, I'm underwhelmed. I'm always like, you know what? If I could only get the mids this way, or get the high end this way, or that bass control on it. You either have a really well balanced bass, or you have in your face it's going to clip the whole recording bass with it. So in comparison to a dual rectifier, where a dual rectifier has that sound, where again it's people love that sound, people hate that sound. So does it compare to it? Is it in the same field, I guess you would say, or same playing field, or same range, or what have you? I think, honestly, no. For versatility's sake, I find the Windsor, even though, yeah, it's one of those budget-friendly amps, I think it's out of production at this point. But it's one of those amps where you could always pick it up for like $300 or $400, even cheaper sometimes. However, in recent years, especially with everything that's going on with just availability of amps, this amp here has somewhat skyrocketed on the used market, whether it can or cannot be sold at the prices that it's being listed for. So I can kind of understand why some people are going to be a little upset because, hey, this is a budget amp. This is like I paid $400 for this amp. I paid like $2,100, I think, 12 years ago for this amp. So I can kind of understand in that respect. And the Mesa Boogie as well, it does have that thing where it's going to sound flubby if you have a lot of bass or a lot of low end in your recording. So you do have to, a lot of people start out around 9 o'clock with the bass control and then kind of dial it back from there to get more clarity, especially when you're increasing the volume on the recordings. And that is one thing that I do have to say, both of these amps are kind of underwhelming when it comes to low volumes. Maybe that is why there's a multi-watt rectifier right now. But when you start increasing the volume, that's when the amps both sort of open up. And in the Windsor's kind of sake, it starts to fall apart a little. But yeah, that's really what I've got to say here. And you can leave your comments down below if you want to or whatever. And I say good day.